Stop wasting money on fertilizer. 50 Amish methods for rich, organic soil. Did you know the average American gardener spends over $200 annually on synthetic fertilizers that are destroying their soil's natural ecosystem? Big ag companies don't want you to discover what I'm about to share. Every time you pour those chemical fertilizers into your garden, you're not just wasting your hard-earned money, you're killing the living microorganisms that make soil truly fertile. Welcome back, folks. My name is Whitaker, and what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about gardening. While you've been emptying your wallet on expensive synthetic fertilizers, the Amish have been quietly creating the richest, most productive soil on Earth using methods that cost next to nothing. These aren't just old-fashioned techniques, they're scientifically proven soil-building strategies that mega-corporations have been desperately trying to keep hidden. One wrong move with those chemical fertilizers, and you could be creating a toxic wasteland where nothing will grow properly again. Today I'm blowing the lid off the fertilizer industry's biggest secret: you don't need their products. I'm going to show you 50 authentic Amish methods to create incredibly rich, fertile soil that will produce massive yields of healthy, nutrient-dense vegetables without spending another dime on those toxic chemicals. But I have to warn you, use these methods correctly or you could end up doing more harm than good. One simple mistake mixing your compost ingredients and you might accidentally create a breeding ground for harmful pathogens instead of beneficial microbes. Pay close attention because what you're about to learn might just save your garden from total collapse while keeping hundreds of dollars in your pocket where they belong. Method 1. Dynamic compost layering. The foundation of any Amish garden isn't store-bought fertilizer, it's properly layered compost. But there's a critical technique most gardeners completely miss. The Amish don't just throw kitchen scraps into a pile and hope for the best. They strategically layer brown and green materials in precise ratios. The browns, like fallen leaves, straw, and cardboard, provide carbon. The greens, vegetable scraps, grass clippings, and fresh manure, supply nitrogen. Here's the crucial secret: maintain a 3:1 ratio of browns to greens. Too many greens, and your compost will smell like rotting garbage and attract pests. Too many browns, and decomposition slows to a crawl. Elaine Ingham, a leading soil microbiologist, explains why this matters. Proper carbon-to-nitrogen ratios create the ideal environment for microbial activity, which is what transforms raw ingredients into nutrient-rich humus. Layer your materials in 3-4-inch sections, alternating browns and greens. During summer, cover your pile with straw to retain moisture. In winter, cover with black plastic to trap heat. Turn the pile every 2-3 weeks with a pitchfork to aerate it. Unlike synthetic fertilizers that provide just a few nutrients, proper compost delivers a complete spectrum of over 30 essential minerals, plus beneficial fungi and bacteria that create a living soil ecosystem, and it costs absolutely nothing but a little time. The average bag of commercial compost costs $8.12, and you might need 10 bags for a modest garden. That's $8120 saved right there, and your homemade compost will be far superior to anything you can buy. Method 2. Leaf mold gold. While everyone else bags up their fall leaves for the garbage collector, the Amish see those leaves for what they truly are: gardening gold worth hundreds of dollars. Leaf mold is simply decomposed leaves, but its impact on soil quality is nothing short of miraculous. It improves water retention, loosens clay soil, adds structure to sandy soil, and creates habitat for beneficial soil organisms. Here's how to do it. Collect fallen leaves in autumn. Oak, maple, and beech work exceptionally well. Slightly shred them with a lawnmower to speed decomposition, then pile them in a 3-foot wire cage in a shady corner of your yard. Moisten them thoroughly and simply wait. Within 1-2 years, you'll have crumbly, sweet-smelling leaf mold that rivals the most expensive soil conditioners on the market. The critical mistake most gardeners make: not moistening the leaves enough initially. Dry leaves won't decompose properly. Your pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, damp but not soggy. Dr. Jeff Gilman of the University of North Carolina points out leaf mold can hold up to 500% of its weight in water, making it more effective than peat moss, which holds about 400%. A single mature tree produces $25.50 worth of leaf mold annually. With the average yard producing 10-15 bags of leaves each fall, you're literally raking up $250-750 worth of soil amendment and probably throwing it away. Apply a 2 3-inch layer of leaf mold to your garden beds in early spring, gently working it into the top few inches of soil. Your plants will respond with explosive growth that no bag of chemical fertilizer can match. Method 3. Coffee grounds soil booster. Americans throw away over 6 million tons of coffee grounds annually. An environmental tragedy and a missed opportunity for gardeners. The Amish, with their waste-nothing mentality, would be appalled. Coffee grounds are approximately 2% nitrogen by volume, making them a perfect slow-release fertilizer. Their slightly acidic nature makes them ideal for acid-loving plants like blueberries, azaleas, and most vegetable crops. Here's how the Amish use them. Collect used coffee grounds. Most coffee shops will gladly give you their used grounds for free. Add no more than half an inch layer to your soil surface, then gently scratch it in. The critical mistake to avoid is applying them too thickly. This can create a water-repellent barrier that actually harms your plants. Rebecca Louie, composting expert and author of Compost City, notes coffee grounds encourage the growth of microorganisms in soil, attracting earthworms which further aerate and enrich your garden bed. In summer, sprinkle dry coffee grounds around plants to deter slugs and snails. The abrasive particles create a barrier they won't cross. In fall, add them to your compost pile to boost its nitrogen content. A typical bag of organic nitrogen fertilizer costs about $15.20 and treats 100 square feet. By collecting just 1 pound of coffee grounds weekly easy from a local cafe, you'll save over $100 annually while improving your soil structure far better than synthetic alternatives. Method 4. Crop rotation mastery. The Amish have perfected crop rotation not just because it's traditional but because it works brilliantly. Modern gardeners who plant tomatoes in the same spot year after year are practically guaranteeing disease problems and soil depletion. Proper crop rotation prevents pest buildup, balances soil nutrients, and can eliminate the need for chemical fertilizers entirely. The Amish typically follow a 4-year rotation pattern based on plant families. Here's the system. Divide your garden into 4 sections. Year 1, plant heavy feeders, tomatoes, corn, cabbage. Year 2, plant light feeders, carrots, onions, herbs. Year 3, plant soil builders, beans, peas. Year 4, plant root vegetables, potatoes, beets. Then repeat the cycle. The scientific principle is straightforward. Different plant families draw different nutrients from the soil. Legumes, beans, and peas actually add nitrogen back to the soil through beneficial bacteria in their root nodules. Dr. Charles Dowding, no-dig gardening expert, explains, crop rotation disrupts pest and disease cycles while balancing soil nutrients. It can increase yields by 10 to 25% without adding any fertilizers. The critical mistake? Forgetting which crops belong to which families. Tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants are all nightshades, so they should be rotated as a group. Keep detailed garden maps each season to maintain your rotation plan. This method costs nothing to implement, but saves approximately $40.60 per garden bed annually in fertilizer costs. Plus, you'll spend far less fighting plant diseases and pests that accumulate when crops aren't rotated. Easily another $30.50 in savings. Method 5. Living mulch systems. While modern gardeners spend hundreds on bagged mulch, the Amish use living mulch, companion plants that cover the soil, suppress weeds, and add nutrients. Living mulches are low-growing plants planted between your main crops. They prevent soil erosion, retain moisture, and can even repel pests. When their growing cycle ends, they become green manure, adding organic matter directly to your soil. The Amish favorite, clover. White clover grows just 4-8 inches tall, fixes nitrogen from the air into the soil, attracts beneficial insects, and can be easily cut back when necessary. Here's how to implement it. In early spring, sow white clover seeds between rows of vegetables at a rate of 1/4 ounce per 100 square feet. Keep soil moist until established. The clover will form a living carpet that protects soil while feeding nitrogen to neighboring plants. The mistake most gardeners make is planting living mulch too close to small seedlings. Give your primary crops a 4-6-inch radius to prevent competition until they're well established. Joel Salatin, renowned sustainable farmer, observes, living mulches create a self-sustaining ecosystem where plants help each other thrive. It mimics nature's design rather than fighting against it. A 3-inch layer of store-bought organic mulch costs about $1.46 per square yard, easily $100 plus for a modest garden. Living mulch costs about $10 in seeds, and provides superior benefits while continuously improving soil fertility year after year. Method 6. Vermicomposting secret formula. The Amish understand something most gardeners miss. Worm castings are the most potent natural fertilizer on Earth, containing over 60 micronutrients and beneficial enzymes. Vermicomposting uses special composting worms, red wigglers, to transform kitchen waste into rich, dark humus that supercharges plant growth. Laboratory analysis shows worm castings contain 5 times more nitrogen, 7 times more phosphorus, and 11 times more potassium than ordinary soil. Here's the Amish method. Build or buy a simple worm bin with drainage holes. Add bedding, shredded newspaper, cardboard, dried leaves moistened to the consistency of a wrung-out sponge. Introduce 1 pound of red wiggler worms, approximately 1,000 worms. Feed them fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and crushed eggshells, but never meat, dairy, or oily foods. The critical technique most people miss: maintaining proper moisture. Your worm bin should always feel like a damp sponge. Too dry and the worms will die, too wet and they'll drown or try to escape. Norman Aronkhan of the University of Hawaii, a leading researcher on vermicompost, explains worm castings contain plant growth hormones and humic acids that significantly increase germination, growth rates, and yields beyond what chemical fertilizers can accomplish. Harvest the castings every 3-4 months by moving finished material to one side and adding fresh bedding and food to the other. The worms will migrate to the fresh side, allowing you to collect the finished vermicompost. A small bag of commercial worm castings costs $20-30. A home system produces about 5-10 pounds of castings monthly, a $100-300 value, from what would otherwise be kitchen waste. Method 7. Dynamic mineral balancing. The Amish approach soil fertility not by focusing on nitrogen alone like most commercial fertilizers, but by creating mineral balance that supports healthy plants naturally. Soil testing is the foundation of this method. Before adding amendments, the Amish test their soil to understand exactly what it needs. Most suburban gardens suffer from mineral imbalances that no amount of standard fertilizer will fix. Here's how to implement this approach. Obtain a comprehensive soil test from your county extension office, usually $15-30. Once you know your soil's mineral profile, apply specific natural amendments to create balance. For calcium deficiency, add crushed eggshells or agricultural lime. For magnesium deficiency, apply Epsom salts 1 tablespoon per square foot. For phosphorus deficiency, use bone meal. For potassium deficiency, add wood ash 1 pound per 100 square feet. The critical mistake gardeners make is applying amendments without testing first. This can create worse imbalances. A classic example is adding lime to raise pH when your soil might actually need sulfur or gypsum. Dr. William Albrecht, whose soil fertility research revolutionized organic farming, noted, "It's not the overabundance of acid but the lack of calcium that makes soils sick, plants weak, and animals and people that feed on them unhealthy." Apply mineral amendments in fall or early spring, incorporating them into the top 6 inches of soil. Keep detailed records of what you've applied to avoid overcorrection. Commercial fertilizer blends addressing mineral deficiencies cost $30-50 per application. Using targeted natural amendments based on soil testing typically cost $10-15 for the same area while providing more complete nutrition, an annual savings of at least $80-140. Method 8. Animal manure alchemy. The cornerstone of Amish soil fertility is properly aged animal manure, but most gardeners make dangerous mistakes when using it. Fresh manure contains ammonia and salts that can burn plants and potentially harbor pathogens. The Amish never apply it directly. They age it carefully through a specific process that transforms it into safe, nutrient-rich garden gold. Here's the proper method. Collect manure and mix it with straw or other carbon material at a ratio of 1:3, 1 part manure to 3 parts carbon. Form it into a pile at least 3 feet cubed to generate enough heat for proper decomposition. Cover with straw to retain heat and moisture. Turn the pile monthly. Allow it to age for 12 months before applying to food gardens. Different manures have different properties. Chicken manure, highest in nitrogen 4 to 5%, excellent for heavy feeders like corn. horse manure, balanced nutrients 0.7% N, 0.3% P, 0.6% K, good for general garden use. Mites cow manure, lower in nutrients but excellent for soil structure. Rabbit manure, can be applied directly without aging. Use cold manure, the critical mistake, using fresh or partially aged manure on food crops. This can introduce E. coli and other dangerous pathogens. The USDA recommends that manure be composted at temperatures of at least 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 days and turned 5 times. Dr. Matthew Kleinhens, professor at Ohio State University, advises properly aged manure provides not just nutrients but also organic matter that feeds soil microbes, improving long-term soil health in ways chemical fertilizers cannot. Apply 1/4 to 1/2 inch of composted manure to garden beds in fall or early spring. For heavy feeders like tomatoes, add a scoop to planting holes at transplanting time. Bagged composted manure costs $4.46 per bag, with a typical garden requiring 15-20 bags annually, $60-120. Sourcing manure from local farmers is often free or very low cost, saving you the entire expense while providing superior results. Method 9. Cover crop strategies. While conventional gardeners leave their soil bare over winter, the Amish never allow soil to remain uncovered. They use specific cover crops to protect and enrich it during the off-season. Cover crops prevent erosion, suppress weeds, break up compaction, add organic matter, and some even fix nitrogen from the air into the soil. They're like hiring an army of workers to improve your soil while you rest. The Amish approach after harvest in late summer or fall, immediately sow cover crops suited to your climate and soil needs. For nitrogen fixation, crimson clover, field peas, vetch, for biomass and weed suppression. Cereal rye, wheat, oats, for breaking up compaction. Daikon radish, turnips, for quick growth before winter. Buckwheat. The timing is crucial. Plant at least 4 weeks before your first average frost to establish good growth. In spring, mow or cut down cover crops 2-3 weeks before planting, leaving the residue as a mulch or turning it lightly into the top few inches of soil. The mistake most gardeners make is waiting too long to terminate cover crops in spring. If allowed to go to seed, some cover crops can become weeds. Others, if they grow too large, can tie up nitrogen as they decompose, temporarily reducing it for your vegetables. Dr. Ray Weil, professor of soil science at University of Maryland, explains, a good cover crop can add 3-4 tons of organic matter per acre, while preventing the loss of 30-50 pounds of nitrogen that would otherwise leach away during winter rains. In summer, fast-growing buckwheat can be planted in any bed that will be empty for 4-6 weeks. It suppresses weeds, attracts beneficial insects, and adds organic matter quickly. Commercial fertilizers provide only nutrients, but cover crops improve soil structure, increase microbial activity, and enhance water retention. A typical application of balanced organic fertilizer costs $20-30 per 100 square feet. Cover crop seeds for the same area cost $3.5 and provide far more comprehensive benefits, a savings of at least $17.25 per 100 square feet. Method 10. Biochar soil enhancement. The Amish have adopted a soil amendment technique with ancient origins that modern science now confirms is revolutionary: biochar. This specially prepared charcoal creates permanent soil carbon that houses beneficial microbes and holds nutrients for centuries. Archaeological evidence from the Amazon's terra preta soils shows that biochar created by indigenous peoples over 2,500 years ago is still enhancing soil fertility today. That's soil improvement that lasts millennia, not months like chemical fertilizers. Here's how to make it. Collect woody plant material, branches, corn stalks, etc. Burn it in a controlled environment with limited oxygen. A metal barrel with holes near the bottom works well. When the material is charred black but not turned to ash, extinguish by covering completely or spraying with water. The resulting biochar must be charged before use by soaking in compost tea or aged manure slurry for at least 2 weeks. The crucial mistake gardeners make is adding raw biochar directly to soil. Uncharged biochar will actually pull nutrients away from plants initially as it absorbs everything around it. Dr. Johannes Lemon, soil scientist at Cornell University, notes biochar can increase crop yields by 15 to 35% when properly incorporated into poor or depleted soils while sequestering carbon for hundreds to thousands of years. Apply charged biochar at 5 to 10% of soil volume, working it into the top 6 inches. It's a one-time application that continues benefiting your soil for your lifetime and beyond. Commercial biochar costs $30.50 per cubic foot, making it expensive to apply at scale. Making your own costs nothing but time and repurposes waste material, saving hundreds of dollars over commercial soil amendments that need yearly reapplication. Method 11. Compost tea brewing. The Amish have perfected liquid fertilization through compost tea, a brew teeming with billions of beneficial microorganisms that supercharge plant growth and provide natural disease resistance. Unlike synthetic liquid fertilizers that feed only the plant, compost tea feeds the entire soil ecosystem. It's the difference between taking a multivitamin yourself versus establishing an entire health farm inside your body. Here's the Amish method. Fill a 5-gallon bucket 1/3 full with finished compost. Add water to within a few inches of the top. For actively aerated compost tea (AACT), add 1 tablespoon blackstrap molasses and aerate with an aquarium pump for 24 miters 36 hours. For passive tea, simply let it steep for 3 miters 5 days, stirring occasionally. The critical point most gardeners miss is applying it quickly. Once brewing is complete, you have about 4 miters 6 hours to use aerobic compost tea before the beneficial organisms begin to decline. Dr. Elaine Ingham, soil microbiologist and founder of Soil Food Web Inc., explains, a single cup of good compost tea can contain more beneficial microorganisms than there are people on Earth. These organisms colonize leaf surfaces and soil, outcompeting pathogens and breaking down nutrients into plant-available forms. Apply compost tea as a soil drench around plant roots, 1 cup per small plant, 1 quart for larger plants, or as a foliar spray, diluted 1:10 with water in early morning or evening. During active growing season, apply every 2 miters 3 weeks for tremendous results. Store-bought organic liquid fertilizers cost $15.25 per quart. 5 gallons of homemade compost tea costs pennies to produce and treats an entire garden multiple times. A savings of $150–250 per season, while providing superior benefits. Method 12. Chop and drop mulching. The Amish practice in-place soil building through what modern gardeners call chop and drop, using plants themselves as mulch and fertilizer right where they grow. This mimics natural forest ecosystems where plants grow, die, and decompose in the same location, continuously cycling nutrients. It eliminates the labor of hauling materials and creates a self-sustaining system. Here's how: grow nutrient-accumulating plants like comfrey, borage, and dandelions throughout your garden. When they get large, cut them down, leaving 2 mice 3 inches of stem, and lay the leaves right on the soil surface around your vegetables. The leaves break down, releasing minerals and feeding soil life right where it's needed. Comfrey is the superstar of chop-and-drop plants. Its deep taproot mines minerals from subsoil, and its leaves are rich in potassium, calcium, and other nutrients. You can harvest comfrey 4–5 times per growing season. The mistake most gardeners make is removing weeds that could actually benefit their garden. Many common weeds are valuable nutrient accumulators that can be used in chop-and-drop mulching. Dr. Robert Couric, author of Designing and Maintaining Your Edible Landscape, notes, comfrey leaves contain 2–3 times more potassium than manure, making them perfect for feeding fruiting crops like tomatoes and squash. In summer, use chop-and-drop mulch to cool soil and conserve moisture. In fall, use it to protect soil over winter while adding organic matter. By spring, most of it will have broken down into rich humus. Purchased organic mulch costs $4.46 per bag, with a typical garden requiring 10–15 bags annually $40.90. Chop and drop uses plants you grow yourself, eliminating this expense entirely while creating a self-renewing fertility system. Method 13. Trench composting. While conventional gardeners build compost piles that require turning and maintenance, the Amish often use trench composting, a no-fuss method that builds soil fertility directly where plants will grow. Trench composting eliminates the work of maintaining a pile, turning compost, and then moving finished compost to garden beds. It places decomposing matter exactly where plant roots will eventually access it. Here's the technique. Dig a trench 12–18 inches deep between rows or in areas where you'll plant in the future. Fill with kitchen scraps, yard waste, shredded paper, any compostable materials. Cover with at least 6 inches of soil. The material decomposes underground over 3–6 months, creating rich soil exactly where you need it. The key point most gardeners miss is planning their trench location for future planting. Dig trenches in fall where spring crops will grow, or in areas where you'll plant heavy feeders like tomatoes later in the season. Dr. Linda Chalker-Scott, Extension urban horticulturist at Washington State University, explains trench composting creates ideal conditions for worms and soil microorganisms. The soil insulates the decomposing materials, maintaining consistent moisture and temperature. In summer, trench composting helps manage kitchen waste without attracting pests to an above-ground pile. In winter, when outdoor composting slows, trenching allows you to continue processing organic matter efficiently. A year's worth of bagged compost for a medium garden costs $100–150, plus the labor of transporting and spreading it. Trench composting uses waste you'd otherwise discard, eliminating this expense while requiring less physical effort. Method 14. Hugelkultur raised beds. The Amish have adapted an old European technique called hugelkultur that turns yard waste into self-fertilizing, self-watering raised beds that maintain fertility for years with minimal input. Hugelkultur beds are built by burying wood, logs, branches, sticks, and covering them with soil. As the wood decomposes, it creates a sponge-like environment that holds water during drought and releases nutrients slowly for years. Here's how to build one. Dig a trench 1–2 feet deep and 3–4 feet wide. Fill with logs and branches, with largest pieces on bottom. Add smaller woody debris, then leaves, grass clippings and kitchen scraps. Cover with the soil you removed, forming a mounded bed. Plant immediately or allow to settle for a few weeks first. The critical mistake gardeners make is using the wrong type of wood. Avoid black walnut, cedar and black locust, which contain compounds that can inhibit plant growth. Oak, maple, poplar and fruit woods work excellently. Paul Wheaton, permaculture expert, observes a properly built hugelkultur bed can remain productive for 20 years without additional fertilization. The first 3 years actually see increasing fertility as decomposition accelerates. In summer, established hugelkultur beds require significantly less watering, often none at all after the first year. In winter, the decomposition process generates slight warmth, extending your growing season on both ends. Building traditional raised beds costs $4,100 in materials, plus $30–50 annually in soil amendments. Hugelkultur beds use materials most people would discard and remain fertile for decades, a lifetime savings of hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Method 15. Controlled microbial composting. The Amish have refined their composting to focus not just on breaking down materials, but on cultivating specific beneficial microorganisms that create disease-resistant soil and supercharged plants. Controlled microbial composting (CMC) creates a perfect environment for beneficial bacteria and fungi while preventing harmful pathogens. The result is compost with a complex microbial profile that inoculates your soil with life. Here's the method. Build a compost pile in layers as described in Method 1, but add 1 cup of organic cornmeal and 1 cup of bone meal per cubic yard of material. This feeds specific beneficial microbes. Monitor temperature closely. Maintain between 131 to 150 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 days, by turning when temperature exceeds 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Cover with breathable material like burlap, to maintain moisture at 50%. The mistake most home composters make is letting their piles get too hot, killing beneficial organisms, or not hot enough, failing to kill pathogens. Temperature monitoring with a compost thermometer is essential, Dr. Elaine Ingham notes. A handful of healthy compost contains more microorganisms than there are humans on Earth. These organisms create a living soil food web that suppresses disease, converts nutrients into plant-available forms, and improves soil structure. Apply finished CMC compost as a thin layer 1/4 inch on garden beds. A little goes a long way because you're inoculating soil with microbes rather than just adding organic matter. Store-bought microbial inoculants cost $20.50 per package, treating just 100 meters 200 square feet. A cubic yard of homemade CMC compost creates enough inoculant for your entire garden at virtually no cost, an annual savings of $60-150. Method 16. Herbal compost activators. While commercial compost activators can cost $10-15 per package, the Amish use medicinal herbs that accelerate decomposition while adding trace minerals and antibacterial properties to their compost. These herbs contain compounds that stimulate microbial activity, resulting in faster, hotter compost that breaks down thoroughly and develops a rich, complex nutrient profile. The Amish method: grow comfrey, yarrow, chamomile, dandelion, nettle, and valerian specifically for compost activation. Harvest these plants, chop them finely, and mix 2 miters 3 handfuls into each new layer of compost materials. Alternatively, make a strong tea by steeping these herbs in water for 48 hours, then use this liquid to moisten your compost pile. Each herb brings different properties. Comfrey, high in nitrogen and potassium, accelerates decomposition. Yarrow contains phosphorus and copper, attracts beneficial soil organisms. Nettle, rich in iron, magnesium, and sulfur, stimulates microbial growth. Dandelion accumulates potassium, phosphorus, and calcium. Valerian contains phosphorus and manganese, activates cold piles quickly. The mistake gardeners often make is relying solely on kitchen scraps for compost, which can create an imbalanced nutrient profile. Adding these medicinal herbs creates mineral-diverse compost with enhanced properties. Dr. Vandana Shiva, scientist and environmental activist, points out, traditional herbal activators enhance not just the speed of composting, but the quality and diversity of the microbial life in the finished product. A modest herb garden can produce all the compost activators you'll need year after year. Start by growing just a few plants and expand over time. Commercial compost activators cost $10-15 per application, with multiple applications needed yearly. Growing your own herbal activators eliminates this expense while producing compost with a more complex nutrient profile, an annual savings of $30-60. Method 17. Lasagna gardening. The Amish utilize a no-dig gardening method that builds fertile soil while eliminating the back-breaking work of tilling, what modern gardeners call lasagna gardening or sheet mulching. This technique creates highly fertile growing beds by layering organic materials that decompose in place, mimicking how soil forms naturally in forests. It suppresses weeds, improves drainage, and creates perfect habitat for earthworms and beneficial soil organisms. Here's how: mow any existing grass or weeds as short as possible. Cover the area with overlapping layers of cardboard or 10-12 sheets of newspaper, soaking each layer thoroughly as you go. On top of this weed barrier, alternate green layers, fresh grass clippings, vegetable scraps, coffee grounds with brown layers, fallen leaves, straw, shredded paper. Build the bed 18-24 inches high. It will compress to half that height as it decomposes. Finish with 2 miters 3 inches of compost or topsoil on top. The crucial technique most gardeners miss is proper layering. Each green layer should be only 2 miters 3 inches thick, while brown layers can be 4 miters 6 inches. The wrong ratio can create soggy, smelly beds or extremely slow decomposition. Patricia Lanza, who popularized this method, explains lasagna gardening eliminates the need to remove existing vegetation, import expensive topsoil, or laboriously prepare the ground. The materials decompose to create rich, fluffy soil within 4 to 6 months. Create lasagna beds in fall for spring planting, or build them in spring and plant immediately with transplants, not seeds, by creating pockets of compost within the layers. Building a new garden bed traditionally requires removing sod, tilling soil, and adding amendments, easily $50-100 in materials plus hours of labor. Lasagna gardening uses materials most people discard and requires no digging, saving money, time, and your back. Method 18. Compost foliar feeding. The Amish have learned that applying nutrients directly to plant leaves can be 20 times more efficient than soil application alone. They use specially prepared compost tea as a foliar spray that both feeds plants and protects them from disease. Foliar feeding allows plants to absorb nutrients directly through leaf pores stomata, providing an immediate boost during critical growth periods or when soil conditions limit nutrient uptake. Here's the specialized method. Make compost tea as described in method 11 but add 1 tablespoon each of blackstrap molasses, liquid seaweed and fish emulsion per gallon. After brewing for 24 mighties 36 hours with aeration, strain through fine cloth and dilute 1/10 with water. Spray onto the undersides of leaves early in the morning when stomata are most open. The critical mistake gardeners make is improper application timing. Spraying in midday sun can burn leaves, while evening application leaves moisture on leaves too long, potentially encouraging fungal diseases. Dr. Elaine Ingham explains, foliar applied compost tea creates a living microbial shield on leaf surfaces that physically prevents pathogenic organisms from establishing while providing plants with immediately available nutrients. Apply foliar compost tea every 10-14 days during active growing season and whenever plants show signs of stress or nutrient deficiency. For fruiting crops like tomatoes, foliar feeding during flowering and fruit formation can significantly increase yields. Commercial organic foliar fertilizers cost $15.25 per quart, enough for just a few applications. Homemade compost tea costs pennies per gallon and provides superior results, an annual savings of $45.75 while producing healthier, more productive plants. Method 19. Green manuring. The Amish practice intensive soil building during fallow periods through green manuring, growing specific crops solely to be turned back into the soil, creating organic matter and nutrients far superior to any bagged fertilizer. Green manure crops add biomass, prevent erosion, suppress weeds, and some fix atmospheric nitrogen directly into the soil. It's like growing your own fertilizer factory. Here's the technique. Whenever a garden bed will be empty for at least 4 weeks, sow fast-growing green manure crops appropriate to the season. For summer, use buckwheat or cowpeas. For fall into winter, use winter rye, hairy vetch, or field peas. Sow seeds thickly and water until established. Cut down these crops when they begin flowering before they set seed and either turn them into the soil or leave them on the surface as mulch. Wait 2-3 weeks before planting in this area. The common mistake gardeners make is waiting too long to cut down green manure crops. Once they set seed, they can become weeds, and if they become too woody, they decompose slowly and can temporarily tie up soil nitrogen. Dr. Harold Willis, author of How to Grow Great Alfalfa, notes, a good stand of clover or vetch can fix 100-150 pounds of nitrogen per acre, equivalent to 300-450 pounds of commercial nitrogen fertilizer, while simultaneously building soil structure. In summer, fast-growing buckwheat suppresses weeds and loosens compacted soil in just 4-6 weeks. In winter, rye and vetch prevent nutrient leaching from winter rains while adding organic matter. Commercial organic nitrogen fertilizer costs $15.25 per application for a typical garden bed. Green manure seeds cost $3.5 for the same area and provide additional benefits beyond fertility, an annual savings of $36.60 per garden bed. Method 20. Wood ash soil amendment. The Amish view fireplace and wood stove ash not as waste but as valuable potassium-rich fertilizer that would otherwise cost significant money to purchase. Wood ash contains 5-7% potassium and 25-50% calcium carbonate equivalent, making it excellent for vegetables that require these nutrients, particularly tomatoes, peppers, and root crops. Here's how to use it properly. Collect only clean wood ash, no charcoal, treated wood, or glossy paper ash. Store in a metal container until completely cool. Apply in thin layers no more than 1/2 pound per 100 square feet annually directly to garden beds and rake it in lightly. Alternatively, add it to your compost pile in thin layers between other materials. The crucial mistake many gardeners make is applying too much. Wood ash is alkaline, pH 9-11, and can raise soil pH excessively if overused. Always soil test before application if you're unsure about your pH levels. Dr. Jeff Gilman of University of North Carolina explains wood ash provides readily available potassium and calcium nutrients that support plant immune systems and fruiting capacity. But its alkalinity means sparing application is key, best applied in fall or winter to allow time to integrate with soil before spring planting. Never use ash around acid-loving plants like blueberries, azaleas, or potatoes which prefer low pH soil. Commercial organic potassium fertilizers cost $15-20 per application. Wood ash from your fireplace or wood stove is free and provides a more complete mineral profile, an annual savings of $15-20 while reducing waste. Method 21. Enter planting fertility boosters. The Amish never waste space in their gardens. They strategically interplant specific herbs and flowers that enhance soil fertility while their main crops grow, a technique scientists now call bio-intensive companion planting. These fertility-boosting plants mine nutrients from deep soil layers, fix nitrogen from the air, or exude compounds that enhance nutrient availability, acting as living fertilizer factories right amongst your vegetables. Here's the method. Throughout your garden, interplant these soil-building companions. Clover or alfalfa between rows of corn or squash fixes nitrogen. Borage around tomatoes and strawberries accumulates potassium and calcium. Comfrey at the edges of beds mines subsoil minerals. Yarrow between vegetable rows accumulates phosphorus and sulfur. Dandelions in orchard areas brings up deep nutrients with taproot. The mistake gardeners make is viewing these plants as competition rather than cooperation. When properly spaced, these companions enhance rather than hinder your main crops. Dr. Eric Toensmeyer, author of Paradise Lot, notes strategic interplanting can increase total garden productivity by 30 to 40% through more efficient use of space and resources while continuously building soil fertility. Spring is the ideal time to establish fertility boosters as you plant your main garden. By midsummer, you can trim them back and use the cuttings as nutrient-rich mulch right where they grow. Commercial organic fertilizers address immediate plant needs but don't improve long-term soil fertility. Interplanting builds soil continuously while increasing biodiversity and attracting beneficial insects, benefits no purchased fertilizer can provide. Method 22. Diluted urine fertilization. Though rarely discussed in polite company, the Amish, like many traditional farming cultures, recognize that human urine is one of the most balanced, complete fertilizers available, and it's completely free. Human urine contains nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in the perfect ratio for plant growth 11:1:2.5. It's sterile when fresh, contains no harmful pathogens, unlike feces, and recycles nutrients that would otherwise become water pollution. Here's how to use it correctly. Collect fresh urine in a dedicated container. Dilute with water at a ratio of 1:10, 1 part urine to 10 parts water to prevent burning plants. Apply directly to soil around plants, not on foliage. For food safety, apply only to soil around growing plants, not directly to edible parts, and stop application at least 1 month before harvest. The critical mistake is using it undiluted or too strong, which can burn plants due to its salt content. Always dilute properly. Dr. Håkan Jönsson, researcher at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, found a single person's urine contains enough nutrients to fertilize 300-400 square meters of crop to a reasonable yield level. It's essentially a perfectly balanced liquid fertilizer. This method is best used during active growing season when plants need nitrogen most. Stop applications as fruiting plants begin to set fruit, as too much nitrogen at that stage can reduce fruit production. Commercial organic fertilizer for a modest garden costs $5,100 annually. This method recycles nutrients your body has already processed, costs absolutely nothing, and prevents water pollution. A true win-win-win approach. Method 23. Deep mulching system. The Amish practice what modern gardeners call the deep mulch method or Ruth Stout method, using thick organic mulch to eliminate weeding, conserve water, and continuously feed soil. Deep mulching mimics forest floor conditions, where fallen leaves and organic matter create a self-sustaining fertility system. It eliminates the need for tilling, reduces watering by up to 70%, and continuously feeds soil microorganisms. Here's the technique. Apply organic mulch, straw, leaves, grass clippings, etc. to a depth of 8-12 inches across your entire garden. When planting, simply pull back mulch to create a planting pocket, install your plant and pull mulch back around it, leaving a small space around the stem. Add more mulch throughout the season as it breaks down. The mistake many gardeners make is using too little mulch. Thin mulch allows weeds to penetrate and dries out quickly. The deep mulch system requires a seemingly excessive amount initially but much less maintenance afterward. Ruth Stout, who gardened into her 90s using this method, explained, "I never plow, spade, sow a cover crop, harrow, hoe, cultivate, weed, water or spray, and you don't need to either. In summer, deep mulch keeps soil cool and moist, reducing water needs dramatically. In winter, it insulates soil life, allowing microorganisms to remain active longer into cold seasons. A typical garden requires $80–120 worth of commercial mulch annually, plus $40–60 in fertilizers. Using free materials like fall leaves, grass clippings, and straw, often available free from farmers after harvest, eliminates these costs while providing superior results and annual savings of $120–180. Method 24. Rock dust remineralization. The Amish recognize something modern agriculture often overlooks: continually harvesting crops eventually depletes soil of essential minerals. Their solution is rock dust, a natural way to replenish these trace minerals without chemicals. Rock dust, also called rock powder or rock flour, contains a broad spectrum of minerals weathered directly from crushed rocks. These minerals release slowly over many years, providing balanced nutrition rather than quick bursts of a few nutrients. Here's how to apply it. Source rock dust from a garden supplier or stone yard. Look for basalt, granite, or glacial rock dust. Apply at a rate of 5–10 pounds per 100 square feet, either by broadcasting over soil surface or mixing into compost. Apply in fall or early spring, allowing rain and freezing sloughing cycles to begin breaking it down. The critical mistake gardeners make is expecting immediate results. Rock dust provides minerals slowly over 3–5 years as it weathers. It's a long-term soil investment, not a quick fix. Dr. David Montgomery, professor of Earth and Space Sciences at University of Washington, explains, rock dust provides the full spectrum of minerals found in rocks, many of which are missing from depleted agricultural soils, but are crucial for plant health and nutrition. In summer, vegetables grown in remineralized soil show greater resistance to pests and diseases. In winter, the minerals continue to slowly release through natural weathering processes. Commercial micronutrient fertilizers cost $15–25 per application and typically provide only a few selected minerals. Rock dust costs $15–30 for a 50-pound bag, treating 500 mites to 1,000 square feet, and provides dozens of trace minerals for multiple years, a cost advantage of at least 5–1 over repeated applications of micronutrient mixes. Method 25. Condensed milk soil inoculant. The Amish have long used a surprising soil amendment that commercial products try to mimic: diluted condensed milk. This simple treatment feeds beneficial soil microorganisms and suppresses certain plant diseases. Milk contains proteins, sugars, beneficial bacteria, and trace minerals that stimulate microbial activity in soil. It's particularly effective against powdery mildew and other fungal issues. Here's how to use it. Mix 1 part condensed milk with 9 parts water. Apply as a soil drench around plants, using about 1 cup per square foot of soil. For increased effectiveness, add 1 tablespoon blackstrap molasses per gallon of mixture to provide additional carbohydrates for soil microbes. The mistake gardeners make is using non-fat milk products, which lack the beneficial fatty acids that help combat fungal issues. Whole milk or condensed milk products work best. Dr. Wagner Bettiol of the Brazilian Agricultural Research Corporation found, milk solutions sprayed on plants can be as effective as chemical fungicides for controlling powdery mildew, while simultaneously improving soil biology when it drips onto the ground. This treatment is most effective during active growing season. Apply monthly as a soil health booster, or weekly as a treatment for existing fungal issues. Commercial microbial soil inoculants cost $15–30 per application. The milk treatment costs $12, using the same amount of condensed milk you might put in your coffee, a savings of $14–28 per treatment while using readily available ingredients. Method 26. Invasive plant fertilizers. The Amish view problem plants not as enemies, but as potential resources. They transform invasive species like kudzu, Japanese knotweed, and multiflora rose into powerful liquid fertilizers, rather than battling them with herbicides. These problem plants are often nutrient accumulators. They excel at extracting and concentrating minerals from soil. By harvesting and fermenting them, you capture those nutrients for your garden, while reducing the plant's spread. Here's how: fill a 5-gallon bucket halfway with chopped invasive plants. Wear gloves for irritating species. Add water to cover. Then 1 cup of molasses to feed fermentation microbes. Cover loosely and let ferment for 2–3 weeks, stirring occasionally. The resulting dark liquid should be diluted 1:10 with water before application. The critical mistake is harvesting invasive plants while they're setting seed, which could spread the problem. Harvest before flowering or after removing all seed heads. Dr. Peter Del Tredici, senior research scientist at Arnold Arboretum of Harvard University, notes, many invasive plants thrive precisely because they're efficient at mining and storing nutrients from poor soil. Harvesting them creates a net export of nutrients from invasion sites while providing those nutrients to desired crops, best applied in spring and early summer when plants are actively growing. The resulting liquid fertilizer is balanced and complete, providing both macronutrients and trace minerals. Commercial organic liquid fertilizers cost $10–20 per application. This method costs nothing and helps control invasive species, a clear win-win that saves $30–60 per season while addressing an environmental problem. Method 27: Grass clipping nitrogen boost. The Amish never waste the nitrogen-rich resource most Americans simply throw away: lawn grass clippings. Properly managed, these clippings provide free high-nitrogen fertilizer throughout the growing season. Fresh grass clippings contain 3–6% nitrogen by dry weight, comparable to many commercial fertilizers. When applied correctly, they provide a quick burst of nitrogen as they decompose, feeding heavy-feeding vegetables like corn, tomatoes, and leafy greens. Here's the proper technique. Collect grass clippings only from lawns that haven't been treated with herbicides or pesticides. Apply a thin layer no more than 1/2 inch around plants as a mulch or mix into the top inch of soil. For a liquid boost, fill a bucket 1/3 with fresh clippings, add water to fill and let sit for 24–48 hours, stirring occasionally. Dilute the resulting grass tea 1:10 with water and apply around plants. The crucial mistake gardeners make is applying grass clippings too thickly. A thick layer compacts, gets slimy, creates anaerobic conditions, and can harm plants. Always use thin applications. Dr. Nick Christians, professor of horticulture at Iowa State University, explains grass clippings are essentially a slow-release organic nitrogen source. Unlike synthetic fertilizers that can burn plants if over-applied, properly applied grass clippings release nitrogen gradually as soil organisms break them down. This method is most effective during active growing season. Fresh clippings work best. Partially dried clippings have already lost some nitrogen. Organic nitrogen fertilizer costs $15–25 per application for a modest garden. Grass clippings from your own lawn are free and provide comparable nitrogen plus additional organic matter, a savings of $45–75 over a growing season. Method 28: Seaweed soil enhancement. The Amish communities near coastal areas have long used seaweed as a premium garden amendment. Recognizing benefits, modern science now confirms it's one of the most complete plant foods available. Seaweed contains all major and minor plant nutrients, plus unique growth hormones and compounds that strengthen plants against stress. It's particularly rich in potassium, magnesium, and trace minerals often lacking in inland soils. Here's how to use it. Collect seaweed from the beach, check local regulations first, rinse thoroughly to remove salt, then chop into small pieces. Use as mulch 3 meset 4 inches thick, add to compost or make a liquid fertilizer by soaking in water for 2 meset 3 weeks. The resulting liquid should be diluted 1:10 before application. The mistake gardeners make is not rinsing seaweed properly. Excess salt can harm soil and plants. Rinse at least twice with fresh water before using. Dr. T.L. Sen of Clemson University found that seaweed extracts increase crop yields, improve frost resistance, increase resistance to fungal and insect attack, and improve storage life of fruit and vegetables. This method is effective year-round but particularly valuable in spring, when plants are establishing, and in midsummer when they're under heat stress. Commercial seaweed fertilizers cost $15–25 per quart. Using collected seaweed eliminates this cost completely while providing superior results, since whole seaweed contains compounds often lost in processing, a savings of $45–75 annually for a modest garden. Method 29: Chipped branch wood soil builder. The Amish utilize a soil building technique that modern science now calls ramial chipped wood, using freshly chipped small branches to create long-lasting soil fertility. Young branch wood under 2.5 inches diameter contains different proportions of nutrients and lignins than trunk wood. These branches are rich in nutrients, growth hormones, and fungal supporting compounds that create particularly rich soil as they decompose. Here's how to implement it. Collect branches smaller than 2.5 inches in diameter, preferably from deciduous trees like maple, oak, poplar, or fruit trees. Chip them while fresh, not dried. Apply a 1–2 inch layer to garden beds in fall or early spring, working it lightly into the top few inches of soil. Alternatively, age the chips for 1–2 years in a pile kept moist before application. The crucial mistake is using chips from large trunk wood, which has a much higher carbon-to-nitrogen ratio and can temporarily deplete soil nitrogen as it decomposes. Professor Jill Lemieux of Laval University, who pioneered research on this method, found ramial chipped wood stimulates fungal-dominated soil food webs similar to forest ecosystems, resulting in improved soil structure, water retention, and nutrient cycling. In vegetable gardens, apply in fall or early spring, allowing at least a month before planting. Around established perennials and berries, it can be applied any time as a mulch. Commercial soil amendments addressing fungal soil life cost $20–40 per application. Ramial chipped wood can often be obtained free from tree services who need to dispose of their chips, a significant savings while building more resilient, drought-resistant soil. Method 30. Winter rye soil protection. The Amish never leave soil bare over winter. They rely particularly on winter rye, which forms a living protective blanket and performs soil-building functions no bagged fertilizer can match. Winter rye is exceptionally cold-hardy, germinating at temperatures as low as 34 degrees Fahrenheit and surviving under snow. Its powerful root system prevents erosion, captures nutrients that would otherwise leach away in winter rains, and naturally suppresses spring weeds through allopathic compounds. Here's the method. In fall, after final harvest but at least 4 weeks before hard freeze, broadcast winter rye seed at 3–4 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Rake lightly to cover seed with 1/4 inch of soil. No fertilizer is needed. In spring, mow or cut down rye when it reaches about 12 inches tall, at least 1 to 3 weeks before planting. Leave the residue as mulch or turn it lightly into soil. The critical mistake gardeners make is waiting too long to terminate rye in spring. Once it develops seed heads, it's harder to manage and may reduce nitrogen availability temporarily as it decomposes. Dr. Andrew Smith of the Rodale Institute explains, winter rye can develop roots 3–4 feet deep, functioning like a living pump that brings up nutrients from subsoil and prevents them from leaching away during winter precipitation. A winter rye cover crop suppresses early spring weeds, eliminating the need for herbicides or extensive hand weeding. Its extensive root system naturally decompacts soil, reducing or eliminating the need for tilling. Commercial fertilizers address nutrient needs but not soil structure, erosion, or weed suppression. Winter rye seed costs $3.5 for enough to cover 1,000 square feet and provides multiple benefits beyond nutrition. A tremendous value compared to the $30–50 you might spend on fertilizers, mulch, and weed control for the same area. Method 31. Apple cider vinegar soil booster. The Amish use apple cider vinegar, not just in the kitchen but as a garden soil amendment that feeds beneficial microorganisms and helps solubilize minerals into plant-available forms. The acetic acid in vinegar, when properly diluted, creates a slightly acidic environment that many beneficial soil bacteria and fungi prefer. It also helps release minerals bound in alkaline soil. Here's how to use it. Mix 1 cup of unpasteurized apple cider vinegar with the mother in 10 gallons of water. Apply this solution to soil monthly during growing season as a regular watering. For acid-loving plants like blueberries, rhododendrons, and azaleas, use a stronger solution of 1 cup vinegar to 5 gallons water. The critical mistake gardeners make is using too much vinegar, which can increase soil acidity excessively. Always use the proper dilution. Dr. Sarah Tabor, crop scientist, explains dilute acetic acid can help mobilize nutrients in alkaline or calcium-rich soils, while simultaneously feeding beneficial microorganisms that produce plant-available nutrients. This treatment is most effective during active growing season. The mild acidity helps release phosphorus and micronutrients that might otherwise be locked up in high pH soils. Commercial microbial activators and mineral solubilizers cost $15.25 per application. The vinegar treatment costs about $1 using ordinary apple cider vinegar, a savings of $14.24 per application, while using readily available ingredients. Method 32. Banana peel fertilizer. The Amish waste nothing, including banana peels, which they transform into potassium-rich fertilizer for flowering and fruiting plants. Banana peels contain 42% potassium K, 3% phosphorus P, and 1% nitrogen N. This makes them perfect for tomatoes, peppers, roses, and other plants that need potassium for flower and fruit production. Here's how to use them. For direct application, chop fresh peels into small pieces and bury them 1–2 inches deep around plants. For liquid fertilizer, soak chopped peels in water for 48 hours, then use the resulting banana tea to water plants. For a slow release option, dry peels and grind them into powder, then work into soil around plants. The mistake gardeners make is leaving peels on the soil surface where they can attract pests and take too long to break down. Always bury them for best results. Dr. Robert Pavlis, chemist and author of Garden Myths, notes banana peels provide potassium in forms readily available to plants, along with trace minerals and small amounts of magnesium and calcium that commercial fertilizers often lack. This treatment is most beneficial when plants begin flowering, as potassium is crucial for flower and fruit development. Apply monthly throughout the growing season for continuous support. Organic potassium fertilizers cost $10.15 per application. Banana peels that would otherwise be thrown away cost nothing and provide additional trace nutrients, a savings of $30.45 over a growing season while reducing waste. Method 33. Molasses microbe feeding. The Amish feed soil microorganisms with molasses, a practice modern soil science now confirms dramatically enhances biological activity and nutrient cycling. Molasses contains simple sugars that serve as immediate food for beneficial bacteria and fungi. These microorganisms in turn make nutrients available to plants and create soil structures that improve water retention and root growth. Here's the technique. Mix 1 tablespoon blackstrap molasses in 1 gallon of water. Apply as a soil drench monthly during growing season, using about 1 quart per square foot of soil. For enhanced effect, combine with compost tea or worm castings extract to simultaneously add microbes and feed them. The critical mistake gardeners make is using regular table sugar instead of molasses. Molasses contains minerals and trace elements table sugar lacks, making it far superior for soil applications. Dr. Elaine Ingham, soil microbiologist, explains feeding soil biology with carbohydrates like those in molasses is like adding fuel to the engine of your soil. The microorganisms rapidly multiply, creating enzymes, organic acids, and plant growth hormones that benefit your garden immediately. This treatment is most effective during warm weather when soil organisms are most active. Apply in early morning or evening, not during hot midday sun. Commercial microbial stimulants cost $15.25 per application. The molasses treatment costs about 50 cents using ordinary blackstrap molasses, a savings of $14.50, 24.50 per application, while using a readily available ingredient. Method 34. Dead spot recovery solution. The Amish have developed a powerful soil restoration formula for rehabilitating completely dead spots in gardens, areas where nothing will grow due to contamination, extreme compaction, or previous chemical damage. This intensive treatment combines multiple soil-building strategies to restore life to dead soil faster than would happen naturally, allowing you to reclaim garden space without importing new soil. Here's the formula. Dig the dead area to loosen soil 8–12 inches deep. Add 1 inch compost, 1 cup bone meal per square yard, 1 cup wood ash per square yard, unless soil is already alkaline, and 2 cups biochar per square yard. Mix thoroughly. Water with compost tea, then cover with 4–6 inches of straw mulch. Plant with a cover crop mix of buckwheat, daikon radish, and clover. Allow this cover crop to grow for at least 1 season before attempting vegetables. The mistake gardeners make is trying to grow demanding crops in damaged soil too quickly. The restoration process needs time to rebuild soil biology. Dr. David Montgomery, author of Growing a Revolution: Bringing Our Soil Back to Life, notes severely damaged soil can be restored, but it requires a multi-pronged approach addressing structure, biology, and mineral balance simultaneously. Nature would do this over decades, we accelerate it to a single year. This treatment can be implemented any season, but spring through fall yields faster results due to warmer temperatures accelerating biological activity. Removing and replacing dead soil typically costs $5,100 per cubic yard. This restoration approach costs $10.15 for the same area and results in soil that's ultimately more fertile and resilient than imported topsoil. A savings of $40.85 while building skill in soil rehabilitation. Method 35. Earthworm Encouragement System. The Amish view earthworms as their most valuable soil workers, implementing specific practices to maximize earthworm populations, which modern science confirms can process 50 tons of soil per acre annually. Earthworms dramatically improve soil structure, increase nutrient availability, enhance water infiltration, and leave behind castings 5 times richer in nitrogen, 7 times richer in phosphorus, and 11 times richer in potassium than surrounding soil. Here's the Amish method. Maintain consistent soil moisture. Earthworms need damp conditions. Keep soil covered with mulch year-round. Apply a monthly earthworm snack of 1/4-inch compost mixed with cornmeal, 1 cup per 10 square feet, and a sprinkle of coffee grounds. Avoid all synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, which reduce earthworm populations. The critical mistake gardeners make is tilling frequently, which kills earthworms and destroys their burrows. Adopt no-till or minimal tillage practices to maintain earthworm communities. Dr. Joseph Gurris, soil scientist at the University of Vermont, found a healthy population of earthworms can increase nutrient availability by 50 to 300% through their casting activity, while their burrows vastly improve water infiltration and root penetration. This system is most effective when implemented in spring, allowing earthworm populations to increase throughout the growing season. The effects compound year after year. Commercial soil amendments attempting to replicate what earthworms do naturally cost $30.50 annually per garden bed. The earthworm encouragement system costs under $5 for the same results, a savings of $25.45, while creating self-sustaining soil improvement. Method 36. Dynamic Accumulators System. The Amish strategically grow specific plants known as dynamic accumulators, species with the ability to concentrate particular minerals from the soil into their tissues, making these nutrients more accessible to other plants. These plants, many considered weeds by conventional gardeners, act as mineral pumps, drawing nutrients from deep in the subsoil and concentrating them in their leaves, which then return these minerals to the topsoil when they die back or are cut and used as mulch. Here's how to implement this system. Throughout your garden, intentionally grow or allow the following plants. Comfrey accumulates potassium, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, iron. Dandelion concentrates potassium, phosphorus, calcium, copper, iron. Lamb's quarters, high in calcium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Plantain, rich in calcium and silica. Chickweed accumulates potassium and phosphorus. Periodically cut these plants back to ground level just as they begin flowering. Leave the cuttings as mulch around your vegetables or add to compost. The mistake gardeners make is viewing these plants only as weeds to be eliminated, rather than as valuable mineral accumulators working for free. Dr. Robert Korik, author of Designing and Maintaining Your Edible Landscape, notes, dynamic accumulators mine minerals from subsoil that would otherwise be unavailable to shallow-rooted vegetables, essentially bringing free fertilizer up from depths of 6-10 feet. This system works year-round with different accumulators active in different seasons. The benefits multiply over years as soil mineral distribution improves. Commercial micronutrient fertilizers cost $15.25 per application and typically include only a few selected minerals. Dynamic accumulators cost nothing to maintain and provide dozens of trace minerals in plant-available forms, a tremendous value for both money and soil health. Method 37. Biochar Enhanced Compost. The Amish have combined two soil-building techniques, biochar and composting, into a supercharged system that creates compost with significantly higher nutrient retention and microbial diversity. When biochar is incorporated into a compost pile, it becomes charged with nutrients and colonized by beneficial microorganisms, creating a soil amendment far superior to either biochar or compost alone. Here's the technique. Create biochar as described in Method 10. Crush it into pieces smaller than 1/2 inch. Add to your compost pile as you build it, incorporating 5 to 10% biochar by volume into each layer. Turn the pile as usual. The finished compost will contain biochar particles loaded with nutrients and beneficial microorganisms. The crucial mistake gardeners make is adding too much biochar, which can slow decomposition. Keep to the 5 to 10% ratio for optimal results. Dr. Johannes Lehmann of Cornell University, a leading biochar researcher, explains, when biochar is co-composted, it captures nutrients that would otherwise be lost to leaching or volatilization. The resulting material provides both immediate fertilization and long-term soil structure improvement. This method combines the immediate fertility benefits of compost with the century-long soil improvement of biochar. Use just like regular compost, applying 1/2 to 1 inch annually to garden beds. Commercial soil amendments with similar properties to biochar-enhanced compost cost $30.50 per application. This homemade version costs only materials you already have on hand, a savings of $30.50 per application while creating a superior product. Method 38. Fermented plant juice fertilizer. The Amish make powerful liquid fertilizers through fermentation that are similar to the expensive microbe activators now sold commercially to organic gardeners. Fermented plant juice (FPJ) contains enzymes, growth hormones, and beneficial microorganisms that stimulate plant growth and enhance resistance to pests and diseases. Different plants can be fermented to create specialized formulas for specific garden needs. Here's how to make it. Collect young, vibrant plant growth, fast-growing tips and leaves. For general fertilizer, use comfrey, nettles, and dandelions. For flowering, fruiting support, use flowering plants. Chop finely and mix with equal weight of brown sugar or molasses in a clean container. Cover with breathable cloth and ferment for 7–10 days in a cool, dark place. Strain and store the liquid in a sealed container. Dilute 1/500 with water before application, about 1 tablespoon per gallon. The critical mistake is using chlorinated tap water for dilution, which kills beneficial microorganisms. Use rainwater or dechlorinated water. Dr. Elaine Ingham notes, fermented plant extracts contain living microorganisms and plant-derived compounds that synthetic fertilizers cannot replicate. They support plant growth through multiple pathways beyond simple nutrition. This fertilizer is most effective when applied every 2 to 3 weeks during active growing season. Foliar application spraying on leaves is especially effective early in the morning when plant stomata are open. Commercial microbial fertilizers with similar properties cost $20–30 per quart. Homemade FPJ costs pennies to produce and provides comparable or superior results, a savings of $20–30 per application. Method 39. Herb-infused irrigation water. The Amish enhance irrigation water with herb infusions that simultaneously water plants and provide targeted nutrition and pest resistance, a technique backed by recent university research. Different herbs contribute different properties to irrigation water, from trace minerals to natural pest deterrents and growth stimulants. This method delivers these benefits directly to plant roots with every watering. Here's how: fill a 5-gallon bucket with fresh herbs: comfrey for potassium and growth stimulation, stinging nettle for iron and silica, chamomile for calcium and antifungal compounds, or yarrow for disease resistance. Cover with water and steep for 24 to 48 hours. Strain and use the resulting herb tea to water plants, diluting 1/10 with clean water. The mistake gardeners make is using old, dried-out herbs. Fresh, vibrant plant material contains the highest levels of beneficial compounds and living microorganisms. Dr. George Cooper of Kerr Center for Sustainable Agriculture explains, herb-infused waters provide plants with immediately available nutrition while introducing beneficial compounds that synthetic fertilizers simply don't contain. This method is most effective during periods of active growth and stress, early establishment, flowering, fruiting, and during drought or extreme heat. Commercial liquid fertilizers with trace minerals cost $15–20 per application. Herb-infused irrigation water costs nothing if you grow your own herbs, a savings of $45–60 over a growing season. Method 40. Autumn leaves mold technique. The Amish have perfected a specialized technique for processing autumn leaves into the finest soil amendment possible, far superior to simply adding raw leaves to compost. Leaf mold, made through proper fermentation and fungal decomposition of leaves, creates a humus that holds up to 500% of its weight in water and provides ideal habitat for beneficial soil organisms. Here's the enhanced technique. Collect fallen leaves in autumn. Shred them with a lawnmower or shredder. Moisten thoroughly and place in a dedicated bin or wire enclosure. Add 1 cup finished compost per 30 gallons of leaves to inoculate with fungi. Cover with an old carpet piece or burlap to maintain moisture. Every month, check moisture levels and add water if needed. After 9-12 months, you'll have dark, crumbly leaf mold with a sweet, earthy smell. The critical mistake is inadequate moisture. Leaf mold needs consistent dampness to develop properly. If leaves feel dry a few inches down, add water immediately. Dr. Frank Rossi, turf specialist at Cornell University, notes, properly processed leaf mold develops a unique fungal-dominant microbial profile that's particularly beneficial for woodland and ornamental plants, but also tremendous for vegetable gardens. Use leaf mold as a soil amendment. Mix in 2-3 inches before planting, or as a top dressing around established plants. 1/2 inch layer applied in spring. Commercial products with similar properties to leaf mold cost $10-15 per bag, with a typical garden requiring 10-15 bags annually, $100-225. Making your own from leaves that would otherwise be discarded saves this entire expense while producing a superior product. Method 41, EGGS shell, calcium supplement. The Amish transform eggshells, an item most people discard, into powerful calcium supplements that prevent blossom end rot in tomatoes and strengthen plant cell walls against disease. Eggshells are 95% calcium carbonate, the same compound found in agricultural lime, but in a form that's easier for plants to access. They also contain trace amounts of magnesium, phosphorus, and potassium. Here's the optimal preparation method. Rinse eggshells and dry completely in the oven at low heat or sun-dry. Grind to fine powder using a coffee grinder dedicated to garden use. Store in an airtight container. Apply at planting time at a rate of 1 teaspoon per transplant hole, or broadcast 1 cup per 10 square feet of garden bed and rake in lightly. The mistake gardeners make is using crushed rather than powdered eggshells. Coarsely crushed shells take years to break down, while finely powdered shells provide calcium within weeks. Dr. Jeff Gilman, horticulture professor and author, explains, calcium strengthens cell walls, improving plant resistance to both disease and physical damage. It's particularly crucial for fruiting plants like tomatoes and peppers. Apply powdered eggshells in early spring before planting, or anytime you notice symptoms of calcium deficiency, blackened blossom ends on tomatoes or peppers, tip burn on lettuce or cabbage. Commercial calcium amendments cost $8.12 per application. Repurposed eggshells cost nothing, a savings of $24.36 over a growing season for something you would have thrown away. Method 42, wood chip path fertility system. The Amish use garden paths as slow-release fertility factories by covering them with wood chips that decompose gradually, feeding adjacent beds through fungal networks. This ingenious system allows garden paths to serve multiple functions: walking surfaces, weed suppression, water infiltration zones, and long-term fertility generators for nearby plantings. Here's how to implement it. Create permanent paths between garden beds. Cover paths with 4-6 inches of wood chips. Tree service companies often provide these free. As you weed, water, and maintain beds, toss organic matter like pulled weeds onto the paths. Over time, the wood chips break down from the bottom, creating rich fungal-dominant soil that feeds adjacent beds. The crucial mistake gardeners make is removing and replacing wood chips annually. The real magic happens in years 2-3. When fungal networks establish and begin breaking down the wood into valuable nutrients. Dr. Linda Chalker-Scott, extension horticulturist at Washington State University, found wood chip mulches support beneficial fungi that extend into garden beds, delivering nutrients and water to plant roots more efficiently than plants can access on their own. After 3-4 years, as the bottom layer of chips has decomposed into rich soil, simply add new chips on top rather than replacing everything. The system becomes more effective over time. Commercial garden path materials like gravel or bark nuggets cost $3.35 per square foot and provide no fertility benefits. The wood chip path system costs nothing if you use locally sourced chips and actively improves your soil, a tremendous value beyond simple cost savings. Method 43. Three Sisters companion planting. The Amish adopted the Native American Three Sisters planting system that creates natural soil fertility through plant synergy, eliminating the need for added fertilizers in corn plantings. This companion planting technique combines corn, pole beans, and squash in a mutually beneficial relationship that enhances soil fertility, maximizes space, and increases yields without external inputs. Here's how: plant corn in blocks rather than rows, spacing plants 12 mits 15 inches apart. When corn reaches 6 inches tall, plant pole beans at the base of each corn stalk. 2 weeks later, plant squash or pumpkins around the perimeter. The corn provides support for beans. Beans fix nitrogen in the soil, feeding the corn, and squash leaves shade the ground, preventing weeds and conserving moisture. The mistake most gardeners make is incorrect timing. If beans are planted too early, they can overwhelm young corn before it's established. If squash is planted too early, it can shade out corn seedlings. Dr. Jane Mount, Pleasant, agricultural scientist and director of the American Indian Program at Cornell University, notes the Three Sisters system can increase per-acre yields by as much as 50% compared to monocultures of the same crops while maintaining or improving soil fertility year over year. This system works best planted after danger of frost has passed and soil has warmed. For continuous harvest, stagger plantings 2 mits 3 weeks apart. Commercial fertilizer for corn typically costs $15.25 per 100 square feet. The Three Sisters system eliminates this need through biological nitrogen fixation, a savings of $15.25 while producing 3 crops in the space normally used for one. Method 44: Mushroom soil transformation. The Amish harness the remarkable powers of fungi by intentionally cultivating mushrooms in garden areas that need soil restoration, creating a biological system that breaks down organic matter and improves soil structure. Certain mushroom species excel at breaking down woody materials and transforming them into rich humus full of nutrients and beneficial organisms. This process, called microorganisms, can restore even severely depleted soils. Here's the technique. In fall, dig 4 to 6 inch deep trenches between garden rows. Fill with a mixture of wood chips, straw, and mushroom spawn. Oyster mushrooms work well for beginners. Cover with 1 to 2 inches of soil and mulch with straw. By spring, the fungi will have begun decomposing the wood, creating rich, living soil. After harvesting mushrooms, turn the entire area into the garden bed. The critical mistake gardeners make is using the wrong mushroom species. Saprophytic mushrooms, those that decompose dead material like oyster, winecap, or shiitake, are best for soil improvement, not mycorrhizal species sold for plant partnerships. Dr. Paul Stamets, world-renowned mycologist, explains mushroom mycelium produces powerful enzymes that break down lignin and cellulose, compounds most bacteria cannot digest. This creates soil rich in fungal life that supports healthy plant communities. This system is best started in fall to allow fungi to establish before the next planting season. The mushrooms themselves provide an additional harvest alongside soil improvement. Commercial soil amendments for poor soil typically cost $50-$100 per garden bed. The mushroom system costs $20-$30 for spawn while producing edible mushrooms worth $30-$50, effectively paying you while improving your soil. Method 45: Perennial nitrogen fixers. The Amish establish permanent nitrogen factories in and around their gardens by strategically planting perennial nitrogen-fixing species that continuously feed the soil year after year. Unlike annual cover crops that must be replanted each year, perennial nitrogen fixers establish deep root systems that access nutrients and moisture deep in the subsoil while constantly depositing nitrogen through root die-off and leaf drop. Here's how to implement this system. Around garden perimeters and in permanent pathways, plant perennial nitrogen fixers appropriate to your climate: gumi, sea buckthorn, peasrub, caragana, false indigo, and nitrogen-fixing trees like black locust or honey locust. These plants form symbiotic relationships with soil bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant-available forms, gradually enriching surrounding soil. The mistake gardeners make is forgetting to chop and drop these plants regularly. Periodic cutting stimulates new growth and root die-off, releasing more nitrogen into the soil. Cut established plants back by 1/2 to 2 meters 3 times yearly and use the trimmings as mulch. Dr. Eric Toensmeyer, author of Perennial Vegetables, notes a mature nitrogen-fixing shrub can provide the equivalent of 5–10 pounds of commercial nitrogen fertilizer annually through natural processes, while simultaneously producing habitat for beneficial insects and building soil carbon. Once established, these plants work for decades with minimal maintenance. Most also produce edible berries, flowers, or pods, adding food production to their soil-building functions. Commercial organic nitrogen fertilizers cost $15.25 per application, with multiple applications needed yearly. A system of perennial nitrogen fixers costs $30.60 to establish but eliminates fertilizer needs for decades, an incredible return on investment. Method 46. Root cellar waste recycling. The Amish maintain closed-loop fertility systems by carefully managing root cellar wastes, creating soil amendments from stored vegetables that have begun to spoil. Root cellars inevitably produce some spoiled vegetables through the winter months. Rather than discarding these or composting them conventionally, the Amish use specialized fermentation techniques to transform them into powerful liquid fertilizers. Here's their method. Collect vegetables from root cellar that have begun to spoil but aren't moldy. Chop coarsely and place in a 5-gallon bucket, filling it halfway. Add 1 cup brown sugar or molasses and enough water to cover. Cover with a loose-fitting lid to allow gases to escape. Ferment in a cool location 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit for 2–3 weeks. Strain and dilute the resulting liquid 120 with water before applying to garden beds. The crucial mistake is using vegetables with white or colored mold. Use only vegetables that are soft, shriveled, or just beginning to decay. Dr. Elaine Ingham explains fermented vegetable solutions contain beneficial microbes, enzymes, organic acids, and plant nutrients in forms readily available for uptake. They're essentially probiotic supplements for your soil. This method is most valuable in late winter, early spring when root cellar storage is being depleted and garden beds are being prepared for the new season. Commercial liquid fertilizers and microbial inoculants cost $20–30 per application. This method converts what would be waste into valuable garden inputs at no additional cost, saving $20–30 while closing the nutrient loop. Method 47. Chicken forage rotation. The Amish use chickens as living tillers, pest controllers, and fertilizer applicators through a carefully managed rotation system that builds soil fertility while producing eggs. This system, sometimes called chicken tractoring, allows birds to prepare garden beds, deposit fertilizer, and glean weeds and crop residue without the negative impacts of constant chicken presence in the garden. Here's how to implement it. Build or buy a bottomless portable chicken enclosure that can be moved easily. Place it over a garden area for 3–7 days before you intend to plant. The chickens will scratch the soil, eat weed seeds and pests, and deposit nitrogen-rich manure. Move the enclosure to the next area and plant the prepared bed immediately. The critical mistake gardeners make is leaving chickens in one area too long, which can lead to over-fertilization with nitrogen and compaction of soil. Keep them moving regularly. Joel Salatin, pioneering sustainable farmer, notes, properly managed, a small flock of chickens can prepare and fertilize 1,000 square feet of garden in a season, eliminating the need for tilling or purchased fertilizers while providing pest control and producing eggs. This system works best implemented 1–2 weeks before planting time in each garden section. In fall, chickens can be used to clean up crop residue and deposit fertilizer for the next season. The labor and expense of tilling, weeding, and fertilizing a garden typically costs $100–200 annually in supplies and equipment maintenance. The chicken system eliminates most of these costs while producing eggs valued at $5–10 per dozen, effectively paying you to build soil fertility. Method 48. Liquid fertilizer from cold compost. The Amish create fast-acting liquid fertilizers from immature compost, using materials that haven't fully decomposed to create nutrient-rich compost juice that feeds plants immediately. Unlike compost tea, which brews finished compost in water, compost juice extracts nutrients directly from materials still in the decomposition process, providing an instant fertility boost when plants need it. Here's the technique. In a 5-gallon bucket with holes drilled in the bottom, layer partially decomposed compost materials, freshly pulled weeds, kitchen scraps, fresh manure, and green plant material. Place this bucket inside another bucket without holes. Pour water through the top bucket until it begins draining into the bottom bucket. The The resulting dark liquid is concentrated compost juice. Dilute 110 with water before application. The mistake gardeners make is using materials that are too fresh or too decomposed. The ideal materials are those that have begun breaking down but aren't yet finished compost, roughly 2–4 weeks into the decomposition process. Dr. Jeff Lowenfels, author of Teeming with Microbes, explains partially decomposed organic materials release soluble nutrients more readily than either fresh or completely composted materials. This creates a liquid fertilizer particularly rich in available nitrogen and potassium. Use this method during active growing season whenever plants show signs of nutrient deficiency or need a quick boost. It's particularly valuable for heavy feeders like corn, tomatoes, and leafy greens. Commercial liquid organic fertilizers cost $15–20 per application. This method costs nothing and utilizes materials in the in-between stage of composting, a savings of $45–60 over a growing season. Method 49: Cation Exchange Enhancement. The Amish focus on enhancing their soil's cation exchange capacity, CE, its ability to hold and release nutrients, which modern soil science confirms is more important than simply adding fertilizers. Soil with high CEC acts like a nutrient bank, holding on to applied fertilizers and minerals until plants need them, rather than letting them leach away with rainwater. Building CEC creates soil that requires less fertilizer while producing more abundant crops. Here's how to enhance it. Apply 1–2 inches of well-aged compost annually. Add crushed biochar as described in Method 10. Maintain soil pH between 6.0–7.0, as extremely acid or alkaline conditions reduce CEC. Minimize tilling and soil disturbance to protect organic matter, which provides most of the CEC in typical garden soils. The critical technique most gardeners miss is adding specific clay minerals to sandy soil. A thin dusting of bentonite clay, 1 pound per 10 square feet, significantly increases the nutrient-holding capacity of sandy soils. Dr. Raymond Weil, soil scientist and professor at University of Maryland, explains each point increase in CEC represents thousands of additional nutrient-binding sites per teaspoon of soil. Building CEC is the difference between having a soil that leaks nutrients like a sieve and one that holds them like a sponge. Focus on CEC enhancement in fall and early spring when soil isn't actively growing crops. The benefits compound year after year as organic matter builds. Standard fertilizer programs typically cost $5,100 annually for a modest garden. A high CEC soil requires 30–50% less fertilizer for the same results, a savings of $15.50 annually that increases over time. Method 50. 4-Season Soil Building System. The Amish integrate all fertilization and soil building into a comprehensive year-round system with specific actions for each season that build upon each other for continuous improvement. Unlike conventional gardening that focuses on fertility mainly at planting time, this integrated system treats soil building as a year-round project, with each season playing a crucial role in the overall plan. Here's the seasonal approach. Spring. Apply 1/2 inch finished compost to beds. Incorporate cover crops from winter as green manure. Add worm castings to transplant holes. Begin regular compost tea applications every 3 weeks. Interplant with nitrogen-fixing companions. Summer. Maintain heavy mulch to protect soil life. Practice chop and drop with dynamic accumulators. Apply fermented plant juice bi-weekly. Add compost tea to irrigation water monthly. Collect and prepare herbs for fall soil amendments. Fall. Plant cover crops immediately after harvest. Apply mineral amendments based on soil tests. Build new compost piles with abundant fall materials. Add biochar to beds being put to rest for winter. Apply a final layer of mulch for winter protection. Winter. Continue collecting kitchen waste for spring compost. Prepare seed and planting plans based on crop rotation. Create indoor worm bins for winter castings production. Ferment root cellar. Waste for spring fertilizer. Prepare herbal extracts for early spring application. The common mistake is focusing soil building efforts only in spring planting season. The integrated system builds fertility continuously, with each season's activities supporting the next. Dr. Christine Jones, internationally acclaimed soil ecologist, observes truly fertile soil isn't created in a single season. It results from systematic practices that continually add diversity, organic matter, minerals, and microbial life throughout the year. This integrated approach eliminates the feast-or-famine approach to soil fertility, creating instead a stable, continuously improving growing environment that becomes more productive and resilient each year. Commercial fertilizer programs typically cost $100–200 annually and must be repeated each year. The four-season soil building system costs slightly more initially but creates self-reinforcing fertility that requires progressively less input, ultimately saving hundreds of dollars while producing superior results. There you have it, folks. 50 authentic Amish methods for creating incredibly rich, fertile soil without wasting another dime on synthetic fertilizers that do more harm than good. Remember, the Amish aren't just growing food, they're building soil that gets better year after year. When you step away from the chemical fertilizer treadmill and embrace these time-tested techniques, something amazing happens. Your garden doesn't just produce food, it becomes a self-sustaining ecosystem that works with nature instead of fighting against it. The mega corporations don't want you to discover that the best fertilizer doesn't come in a bag with a fancy label and a hefty price tag. It comes from working with natural cycles, capturing waste streams, and understanding the living network beneath our feet. Every dollar you've been spending on synthetic fertilizers is a dollar that could have stayed in your pocket while you built better soil using what you already have around you. These Amish methods aren't just good for your garden, they're good for your wallet and good for the planet. So next time you see those fertilizer displays at the garden center, just walk on by. You now have the knowledge to create soil so rich, so full of life, that your plants will thrive like never before, all without spending another cent on toxic chemicals. This is Buck Whitaker reminding you, the most valuable thing in your garden isn't what grows above the ground. It's the living soil beneath your feet. Nurture it using these Amish methods, and it will reward you with abundance beyond measure. If you found this information valuable, hit that subscribe button and share this video with every gardener you know. Together we can revolutionize how America grows food, one backyard at a time. Until next time, happy growing.